Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast, showing the human stories behind indie game development. This is your loyal Indie Diarist and host, Anthony L. Wolf, writer, game designer, and senior content manager in social media. This episode is a special one with the guys from eXplore Studio. Mario and Virginie are working on an amazing little game. I won't spoil it for you; you'll just hear it. They care about a lot of things like conservation of culture and such, and they are blending some interesting elements all together. It's just incredible. So yeah, I'll leave you to it in a second, but first I want to shout out to my amazing patrons who are Zucchini, Fishbomb Dev, and Peleg. You guys are incredible. I love having your support every single month. Thank you so much. Listeners, if you too want access to episodes in advance and some other benefits that you'll see on my Patreon page, you can go to patreon.com/theindiediarist or check out the links in the description of the show to just find the Patreon page and my website and all the relevant links that will help you support me a little bit better. But without further ado, let's get into the episode with Indie Diary number 57 with eXplore Studio. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast, showing the human stories behind indie game development. This is your loyal Indie Diarist, Anthony O. Wolf, and today with me are, I believe you guys are the co-founders, I suppose, of eXplore Studio. So there's Virginie. I suppose it said Virginie. That's your name.
Yeah, that's my name. Yeah.
Perfect. And then there's Mario. So please, guys, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you're based, and what you're working on right now. One thing to say is that you guys reached out via email, and that is something that any indie game developer out there can do. If you do have a story, you can just reach out and we can have a chat, and we'll probably end up in a much similar setting. But over to you guys. So yeah, tell the listeners a little bit about what you guys are doing.
Right, yeah, we unexpectedly started the studio during COVID in 2020 in the UK, near Bristol, and we moved over to an area near Munich in April 22. So I was pushing it off, I think, but Virginie took over since we are in Germany. And we're a small development team of 4 people, one based in the UK, one based in Douala in Cameroon, and the 2 of us here in Munich. But we work with a loose network of freelancers, about 15 freelancers in different countries for localization, for art, for music, and also for playtesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry.
Oh, no. Go on.
Yeah. So I'm Virginie. I'm the managing director since we moved to Germany 2 years ago. And I came to gaming very, very late because that's not what I did before. I was a primary school teacher before we moved. And then I kind of switched and changed career and decided to work with eXplore Studio. So yeah.
Yeah, it was. I said unexpected because really, I'm an aerospace engineer. I've been working in the industry for about 30 years or so, and mainly in the development of civilian aircraft, sometimes space missions also. And then came along COVID, so that really started us. I think COVID pushed us over the edge.
Well, that explains a lot of things actually, and possibly the whole purpose behind eXplore Studio, which we will dive into shortly. But right off the bat, I can see that you guys are a very multicultural team. Like you've got people from all over the world, but even just you two. I mean, we'll get to that. But like, I suppose Mario, you're from Germany, and Virginie, maybe you're from France,
Yeah,
Belgium.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And but you met in the UK and you started the studio in the UK, so I'm interested about the story. But we'll get there. So it's just it's towards the midpoint of this episode. But yeah, no, you guys are doing something really great, which is and for the listeners' context. It is about like your whole purpose is just creating games, or especially the one that you're working on right now, which are based on real research and hard science fiction adventure facts, or even a lot of research anyway. So that's a lot of work, but it's also really, really inspiring. So before we dive into the episode, I always like to open these with a little icebreaker. And I recently changed mine because I've been using one for about a year, so sometimes I like to switch it up. I want to ask you guys, what is the one game that had the most impact on your life?
Oh,
Yeah, for me, it's probably very easy because I came to gaming very late.
Okay.
It's probably Spyro.
Spyro, okay.
I really like it, but what I like most about games is when we play together. I like when Mario plays, and I like watching him and giving advice from behind, like,
Right, okay,
don't
yeah.
grab this.
Okay.
So
Little
this
backseating, I love it.
this is what I really like. But I would say, if I had to name one, I would say Spyro.
Spyro was certainly very influential on us. Yeah. The trouble is there's so many beautiful games. It's really, really hard. I admit I've got a big pile of shame of games that I haven't
The
finished
backlog,
yet.
yeah.
But I try. But there are so many beautiful ones. One of the ones we discovered at the AGX in London, and we said, "Wow, this is really great." And then we bought it and we played it. Was Rhyme, for example. I don't know whether
Rhyme. I've heard
Yes.
about Rhyme. I haven't played it, but I've heard about Rhyme, yeah.
Very, very beautiful and also very meaningful and deep regarding the story once you get around it. And when you need to do some of these puzzle tasks, also you're at great height, so it gives you a lot of adrenaline also, although it's not in itself like a violent game. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah. But
I
there's
should
so
play
many
it then, yeah.
so many beautiful games. I regret that we don't have more time. And the trouble is, when you start developing games, you have even less time, and that's
Yeah.
sort of a
Yeah.
shame. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you don't play as much. It's something I've heard many times. Like the game developers don't. It's like, I mean, you could see it. You could see the comparison similar to a writer who doesn't read. But it is exactly like that, because if in my case, for example, I'm a writer, but I don't really have that much time to read. I consume stories in other ways, and those help me. But like. It's weird. The moment you start working on a specific craft, then you still love it. It's still your biggest passion, but then you start dedicating your time to other stuff. So game developers don't have that much time to play games, unfortunately. But yeah.
Yes.
We really have to block like one afternoon and say, okay, this weekend on Sunday afternoon we play games, and if not, we get carried away very
Exactly. So, Virginie, you mentioned that you got into gaming quite late with Spyro, and was it like recent? Like how recent was it? Was it like a couple of years ago?
Yeah, probably. So I think Mario and in the family, they always like kind of played game, but it was not really my thing. First, I think as a teacher, I didn't have time anyway to play games, unfortunately. And I think I remember when I was a child, I had like the Donkey Kong game.
Okay.
But that was like, when I was 10 or something. And then, no, I didn't really play. And then I think it's really started when we moved to Germany, like 2 years ago, where obviously by developing games, I wanted to know more about it. So, and going to conferences and conventions, I kind of started jumping in.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And what about you, Mario? Because I mean, as Virginie said, in your family, you've always kind of been playing games. So when you think about those early days of your childhood, what is your earliest or even fondest memory that has to do with video games?
Oh, the earliest, it's vague memories of the first games, ping pong games and things
Really?
like
Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah. Like Pong and such.
Yeah, but I mean, when it really started to flare up again was, that must have been in the 2010s or so
Okay.
when I started going to conventions, and then also with children. With the children, and we looked at all the indie games. Especially, we were really fascinated by the indie games because there's such a richness.
The 2010s, it was really early in the 2010s. I mean, it's really exploding now. I mean, depends. Late 2010s was already pretty established, but yeah.
But we went mainly to places in London. I think that was most often. But then we tried to get into the habit of going to the EGX every year.
Yes.
And that was nice. And more indie games came up. And there were beautiful people who poured their love into these games, and they produced pieces of art. And so our oldest son and myself, we always had this thing. We write down what our favorite games, indie games, were at the end of EGX.
Right.
And often we actually overlapped quite a bit.
That's nice. It's cool.
Yeah. But it was really beautiful, yeah. It was, but really, I would have never thought we would become involved in making games. It was more like admiring what these people were doing.
Yeah.
Also, the people who were doing it are such a nice, diverse bunch of open-minded people. It's a pleasure to simply speak with them. And to see what their work is like. So
yeah, the indie community is amazing, and I would say, I mean, apart from some very specific branches of this industry, like game developers tend to be some of the most open-minded people I've ever met. Now, it's not always true. It depends also on the company and company culture, but it tends to be that game developers are pretty open-minded, pretty diverse, and they understand that creativity takes a lot of different forms, which is really always great to see. But I second what you said with the conventions, because there's EGX next month, and I can't wait to go. It's going to be over a weekend at the end of October, and it's always nice because I get to meet a lot of people, maybe some people that I already know as well. And there's WASD. Usually there's also WASD like in April. I don't think they're doing another edition in November this year. Last year they did it twice. This year maybe they'll do it only once. But EGX is always a good one. It's always great, and I really can't wait to meet people there. So yeah, but
it's the first time we can't make it because we're going next week. We're going to the to Japan for the Tokyo Game Show this year.
Oh, nice! So I've never
been. We're gonna meet
some
people there. That's one of the great opportunities also we find when you go to game conventions. You start getting to know people from everywhere, and you can also travel and make use of that time to discover more. End of last year, we were in Cape Town, for example, at Africa Games Week, because we have a lot of African influence in the Kaiyo Mission, and that was beautiful. And
so not only we discover like the country but we also like create like bonds with people from all over the world, and that's just amazing.
We met some people back. We had met for the first time in Cape Town. We met them in Cologne at the Gamescom. And some of them, for example, they become then our localizer. So we localized the game into Swahili, for example. A friend of ours is from Kenya. We met him in South Africa, and this is how things are happening sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And like, I've never been to Gamescom. It's one of my life goals, I would say. At some point, it's not too difficult. I live in the UK, so it shouldn't be too difficult to go. Maybe next year, I'll see. But Tokyo Game Show, I'm so bummed that E3 died before I could experience it, because the E3 was like a huge thing in my childhood. Like, I would just read a lot of gaming magazines, and all of these journalists going to E3. And I would always be like, oh yeah, no, it would be so nice to go there and see these conferences and whatnot. And and it died before I could. So, well, never mind. There will be Gamescom. I hope that one doesn't die too. Tokyo Game Show would be great to see too, but yeah. So you mentioned a bunch of different games and such, or different potentially things that you played. And do you think the games that you played growing up, but also the early games that you played when you started getting into it more, do you think they're having an influence on what you are making now?
Yes, of course it is part really of what you have in your mind when you think about things. Not that you try to copy them necessarily, but you learn from every game. You can learn a lot of things, even from games that are not so mature or they're not so perfect. You can learn, and it's inspiring. That's why I think it's, even if you can't play them all to the finish, it's worthwhile looking at many games.
Yeah, there's always like good things to take from like games, and also like to decide what we didn't want for our studio. For example, we knew we didn't want violent games. That we have nothing against that, but for us it was, we wanted some peaceful games that everyone can play from the age of 8 to I don't know 100 and more.
Yeah, some wholesome vibes. Yeah, no, that's cute. Okay.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, there always comes a time, and for you, I think it was pretty quickly actually the switch, but it always comes a time when you realize that playing games is so fun, but at the same time, what if you could actually make the games? What if you could actually be involved with that? And what was that moment for you? Like, when was it, and what was it like? Was there like a light bulb moment, a sudden realization or something? Oh yes. We want to make games.
I was working on a space project that was going towards proposal for a concept phase about the exploration of the Saturnian planetary system, with lots of landers and probes and satellites. And it was then stopped when COVID came about, and the reason was budget, because there was no cash coming in very quickly, of course. It's exploration. And I was told, well, I can do what I want with it, but we are not going to continue with it. So, and then came COVID. I was furloughed for some time. And you know, when you're sitting at home and it knocks down your self-confidence over time. And you ask yourself, why am I sent home? So apparently they don't.
Of course.
And it came to pass that based on that research topic, I was convinced by one of our children to write a book, a science fiction novel.
Right. Okay.
Which I found a bit silly because I've never done that, and I was doubting my abilities to do it. But
as someone who's written a dystopian science fiction novel, I can tell you it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. But I actually gave it a try, and it was a fantastic experience. And during COVID and during the lockdown especially, it really helped me also mentally to keep sane. And it was so much fun. It was really, really good. At the same time, I worked with our lead game designer. I worked on that research project. So he was doing some visualizations for it to show to the decision makers. So we suddenly had the idea, why don't we take that and use it to start a game? Because he had been studying games technology. So he was really, he's the only one in the development team who actually studied it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how it started. And then once we started, it's really hard to stop because it was
of
so
course
much fun, and you see how it gets better and better and better, and it was really amazing.
And obviously you want to finish it, so you can't stop.
Once you get started, it's really difficult to stop. But well, I suppose as first time game devs and such, but also developing something that is so unique, was there ever a particular a development challenge, say? It could be related to development, or it could be related to project management and such, that has left a mark on you during this time, and anything big that you want to share with other devs as a learning?
I'm probably going to talk about publishers.
Okay.
And probably Mario will talk about different aspects, but obviously, we had, high hopes. We've got a unique game, a unique story.
Yeah.
We know what we want, and we tried to approach, I don't know, but maybe 200 publishers.
Okay.
And sometimes we had replies, sometimes nothing. So maybe they didn't get the email, maybe they didn't get this and that. Or sometimes you met them say, I will call you back in 3 weeks, and nothing happened.
They never did,
Not a yes, not a no. And that was really pushing us, because it's hard. Then you become is what I'm making a good game? Why don't people like it? And so at some point we decided just to go on our own and just publish on Steam instead of like putting all our energy into looking for a publisher.
Have you tried reaching out to Wholesome Games? It's not a publisher per se, but it does have a showcase, and it can maybe highlight your game. Because if you mention that your game has no violence and your purpose is to create things that are peaceful and such, that does seem like a good fit for Wholesome Games. Yeah. So yeah, that could be something that helps you out.
Yeah, thank you.
That's right.
So what we've been doing lately is like more reaching out to influencers and streamers, and try to get the attention of the public this way more than publishers, and that's how we reach out to you.
Yeah, well, the creators are a good strategy and such, but there's also press, but press is harder because they tend to cover big viral games. But yeah, no, creators are a good strategy, and also Wholesome Games might help you out if you guys manage to get in touch with them. Because they're pretty big in their niche, like they're super followed because of all their wholesome games angle. All of the games that they showcase are super cute. But yeah, so well now I guess we
Can I also there are some other things we have learned also over the time. Is one thing is you don't have to have studied games technology, but whatever it is you like doing when you make games, indie games, you can actually learn. And so much is available, You can get advice from people who have done it before. There are so many tutorials. I found that really noteworthy. It was really encouraging. And so unsurprisingly, most of the people we work with, they have never worked in the industry. Localizers are quite a good example. We have localizers from the age of 14 to the age of over 60. And they have all one thing in common. They have never translated games.
All right, okay.
But they were interested in games, and another thing also is that the diversity you have in the team when you make decisions, that's really mind blowing. How you make better decisions if you bounce it off your friends and family. It's really important,
No, of course, no. I guess that is very powerful because having such a diverse team is an asset in this case, especially with the kind of game that you're making. And that brings us actually to the present. So slowly but surely we got to the present day. So eXplore Studio, like, has a very clear purpose, and we talked about it. Like, as you mentioned, doing games that are not violent, or in the case of Kaiyo Mission, just based on real research and such. And with you being, having been, I suppose, an aerospace engineer, Mario, that makes sense. You're also not the first aerospace engineer that comes into the show. The other one was some time ago, but yeah, no, it's interesting. I'm starting to see a pattern here. Maybe aerospace engineers love games a lot. But yeah, so how did eXplore Studio come to be? Where did the idea come from? And so what's
so I think while we were still in the UK, and so I was still working, and Mario still has a day job, but we decided to make it obviously more concrete and to create a studio. So we called it eXplore Studio. Obviously, Explore comes with space exploration and so on, and we thought that would fit really well with what we want. And when we moved to Germany, obviously with all the paperwork, but we managed to take the studio with us. We just had to tweak a few things. And we started probably developing it more here in Germany. And I think the aim is just obviously to work with a bunch of people from all over the world and support them. We obviously have lots of freelancers that we pay them like what we can, because obviously so far we don't earn a lot of money. And like we aim to say that we're in survival mode, but enough for people to work with us to survive and have enough to eat and have a roof over their head. And this is what we do.
Yeah. It's basically if somebody needs to pay rent and food, they get money. If somebody doesn't need money, they don't get money. If somebody works, they pay money, and that keeps us all afloat in a way.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting little system you have there, and I think it's clearly working because you guys are working on the Kaiyo Mission right now. So, and about the game actually, like where did the inspiration for the game come from? Like, and so above all, why the focus on hard research? Curious about that.
Well, I think because it started really with that space research.
Yeah, of course.
It's like a joint human exploration project. And they go to Enceladus, they go to Saturn, to the planetary system. And the name of the mission is Kaiyo Mission, because Kaiyo in Japanese means ocean. And they're looking at subsurface oceans, like on Enceladus, to look for life. And so this is how it started. You can see also in the logo of the game, you can see different flags of countries who participate in that project.
Nice.
And this is how it started, really.
That's really good. Yeah.
I think also we are passionate about, like, if we could make the world a better place, and for us that was one way through the game how we can explain, like, if people were working together, we would be probably much better.
Yes.
So different messages going there.
Right. So to make the world a better place, that's a really good hook, for the game.
And in the science fiction novel, lots of people are introduced that are very diverse. They come from every different country and so on. And I don't want to put any spoilers, but it's about really peacefully working together, because then we can really achieve a lot of things. It's not about fighting, and that includes also aliens. They made contact with at some point.
Well, that's that kind of it spoiled my next question, so to speak, because I wanted to ask you, and I think you already gave a brilliant answer there. What is one thing you wish every player took out of playing the Kaiyo Mission? But I think you just answered that indirectly. So collaboration, just working together, is better than working against each other. But is there anything else that you think that you want a player to take out of playing your game?
Yes, we have, apart from feeling well when playing it and enjoying it, of course, it's very uplifting in a number of aspects. For example, the music is African music, which is very unusual for science fiction.
Absolutely, that was a very unique aspect that I saw in the trailer, and all the different assets that you have. I was like, wow, no, this I've never seen this before. So
it's really positive in that sense. We have also a number of mini games included in the game, some of which are about environmental protection, some of which are based on African traditional games that are dying out because the people are dying out. The elderly who used to play it. So our colleague Julie in Douala, she went into the jungle and she spoke to some elderly people. She made recordings of these old games, and we took them into the digital world.
Amazing. Okay.
As alien games. Once you make contact with the aliens,
beautiful,
you also can travel to their planet, and you see
it feels like it's a little small conservation project in a way, and not really conservation in terms of nature, but definitely in terms of culture. That's amazing. Yeah, no, it's something really, really powerful. Someone has to preserve those things, and love that you guys are doing that. It's really important. Well, so far, I mean, I would say, I suppose there will have been some bumps and hiccups along the way, especially with publishers. But if you could go back so far, is there anything you would change about the development of the Kaiyo Mission?
I think what we would change is probably involving marketing aspects much earlier. But in the beginning,
that's a classic.
It's a classic, Lots of people do that. We work in an agile way with agile tools that are very helpful. We have a lot of, everybody works as they can, and so we are very flexible in that sense. We try to protect the team also, that we don't go into crunch, but we have postponed dates, delivery dates, shipping date, also a number of times, and we've done that mainly for one reason. We wanted to protect the team and not go into crunch where we really take damage only to meet a certain date. And because of our survival mode we still have at the moment, we could get away with it. I realize in some teams when they have no money left, it must be very tough.
Of course.
We postpone, and so they go into crunch. But I've seen a lot of negative effects from that, and we definitely did not want that for the team.
But yeah, to bounce on what Mario was saying, like in terms of marketing, yeah, we probably should have started earlier and differently. And we took part in Steam Next Fest last year, and it was too early. So we did the marketing too late, and Steam at Next Fest too early. We were not ready, and yeah. So we learn, we make mistakes and we learn from our mistakes. So that's it.
Yeah, a lot of developers say, "Oh yeah, one thing I've realized that I really needed to start. Today I realized I need to start marketing yesterday or something like that." So it's never too early for marketing your game, but it's good that you've started now. It's good that you are putting efforts into it now because it makes a big difference, especially with a game like yours. I think finding your niche, your community is important, like the people that your game is meant for. And those, I mean, it's not as straightforward as like a shooter that probably attracts a lot of people, or a side-scroller platformer, although that market is a little bit saturated right now. But like it's easier to find people and players for genres that are popular. But with something like yours, and especially all the themes and the approach, it can be a little bit more challenging, and I can see why you've had some challenge also with the publishers themselves, but that's fine because you guys are on the right track, I think. So what I want to ask you now is the one question that I love asking everybody and is the core of the Indie Diarist podcast. So this is a big one. Why are you guys game developers? What drives you forward?
Ooh, I think I was when we moved to Germany, I decided to not work as a teacher for many reasons. Burnout being one of the main reasons.
Yeah, the kids being the others.
Yeah, but I think I was inspired by what Mario and the team were already doing on the side. I could see like possibility of me doing really other things. I could see how game development could bring people together, people from different backgrounds, people that would be in the past classified as weird or not worthy of doing whatever they were doing. Course. I like the art aspect of it. Like centuries before you had paintings and so on, now you've got a digital world, and the diversity of it. I think this is what made me continue and work at eXplore Studio full time.
Yeah, I think the fact that we can and have to work remotely with the whole team, and that everybody can work as they want. We have some synchronization meetings twice a week, and that's it. Gives you a lot of freedom also to work wherever you want and to organize your work. It will be then planned and synchronized with everyone. So that's really an enjoyable way of working in general. But it's also the pleasure to meet all these people when you can go to conferences, to conventions, even local ones also. When it's fantastic to simply meet nice people like this. It's great. I really enjoy it. If I never thought about it, it was like a great surprise in life that we started this. I do not regret it one bit.
That's amazing. Yeah,
it's wonderful.
Yeah,
it is.
So
wonderful.
Sometimes it's hard for our families and to understand what we do.
Why that's a classic.
Why did you give up your career and just do that? But we try to explain, and maybe one day they will understand. Who knows?
It's a chance to try and make things better. Also, one thing I
like
found
that.
Very impressive was I've seen some of the people we worked with were in real difficulties when we started working with them. And I've seen them turn into confident, professional game developers.
Nice. That's the best feeling, isn't it?
Wonderful. Really nice.
Yeah, and I think also like people sometimes associate gaming with young or young people like in their 20s. But actually when you go to conventions and when you start
there's a lot of people in the 30s and 40s.
From 10 to 70, like So I think it's an industry for everyone, and there's
Totally.
whatever you need, your needs can be met in gaming.
Yeah. Well, I recorded an episode yesterday with two co-founders, I think they are, from Meaning Machine. I met them at WASD, and they said something really, really interesting, which is gaming is still maybe the only branch of entertainment left, which is still an unexplored frontier. It has so many things that we still have to explore, and everybody can find their place in the game, in game development, or even just with the gaming medium as a whole. Because movies and books and such, it is, and music as well. It's just very, very difficult to break through. And in games, you can't confidently say that we've explored everything. And your project proves it. Like, it's something really unique that I didn't think I've seen before. So it's really nice, and the game and the medium keeps evolving, and that's something really, really good.
Yeah, if we're not getting famous with the game, at least we would have produced something we are proud of.
Yeah, that's
something
important.
We love, and that is there to stay. So,
and it makes you constantly. It makes you discover new things. Like, for example, I had never in the winter walked in a lake and recorded it with blue legs because it was so cold. But I was working on sound effects for the game. We needed this, and so there were not many people around. But when they see you, they often think, "What is this crazy person doing, recording sounds in nature?" And so on.
Yeah.
But it's great experience, really. It's and it's so versatile because we are just a very small team, so we have a lot of jobs everybody does. And everywhere we learn. It's
great.
It keeps you really,
it is a really interesting field, a really life-changing field for many people, for sure. Yeah. Well, we've talked about what drives you forward, but of course there will be struggles, and of course we've covered some of them. Apart from publishing and funding, I guess, what do you think drives you backwards? What is your biggest struggle as an indie developer right now?
Maybe that we don't have enough time to do even more. I think the big problem, obviously, for us, like for many indie game developers, is visibility in the market.
Yeah, of course.
Because if people were to see some of these games that are out there, they would love them.
Yeah, totally.
But they don't see them.
It's difficult to reach them. Yeah.
So work like your work you're doing, it's so precious because it is a chance for people to hear about it, to see about things, and that's really maybe a big thing. On the other hand, you're independent, which means
you do what you want when you want and how you want it.
You might not have millions of marketing budget, but you can actually do what you love to do. You can really take your vision and try to make it happen. If you're in a bigger company, they have great marketing budgets, but they can't do that in that way. Yeah. So we did some time ago. We did, because we need follow-up games, of course. We did an idea generation process where everybody came up with some ideas, and then we down-selected some. Then we put more detail to those, and then we made demos for a small number of them, and then we made a decision, and so on. And the creativity and innovation you get even with a small team is also fantastic. Fantastic.
I would say so, yeah.
And so we have already started working on two future games that are not very far developed yet, but
that's fine. Yeah, it takes time.
Yeah, it's a start. So
it takes time. No, it's great. Maybe what we regret is time and visibility. Yeah. Spend even more time doing it and have more visibility in the market. But we wouldn't trade visibility against, if somebody told us you have to do it like this, otherwise we can't sell it, and so on.
Yeah, we want that kind of.
We want to keep our vision and what we want for the game. So there are pros and cons in every aspect, I think.
Yeah. Well then, guys, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. We're near the end. I've just got a couple more questions for you. One of them will be a little bit introspective, but both of them will be fun, I hope. So the first one is, imagine writing a letter to yourself, but say maybe 10 years younger, or it could be a note. What would you say?
Oh, I would say to me, don't be scared. Don't be scared of quitting education, because there's more out of education than you think, and you don't need to go just to the burnout point. There's other things you can do with all that you know and your abilities. And you can still learn. It's not because you're getting older that there's a door and the door is closed at the end. The door can open if you put the means and what you want to do. Don't be scared. Go on.
I would simply put myself start making indie games immediately because I didn't see it coming, and I could have
Also, 10 years ago was 2014, and I think that's about when the indie game bubble started to expand, so to speak. 2014, was it? No, maybe it was a little bit earlier than that, but wasn't it around the time To the Moon came out, and then from there, it wasn't To the Moon, of course, there were a lot of other things, but like Steam and such, and then all the indies became pretty big. From 2017, then there was Hollow Knight, and that was another big burst. But definitely start earlier, because it's a train worth jumping on, a bandwagon worth jumping on. Right. And lastly, if you had unlimited resources, budget and time, both of them, what game would you create?
Well, I think the game that is in the pipeline at the moment, that is called Deviate Zero, which is a story of a girl and a machine. In space still, but a completely different story. I think we would push to have this game obviously finished a bit faster. But equally, it takes time to make the game you want and the game you love. So I think that would be that, and obviously like pushing the marketing. But I think first the game, and second to work probably with a marketing agency we feel like we have the same values. And do that.
I think one of the nice things we could do is we could pay the people who work with us what they actually deserve, because at the moment really we are still in this survival mode, as we have said. That would be nice. That would be one of the first things we could do.
That's a very lovely thing to say. I mean, I told you, if you had unlimited budget and time, what game would you make? And you instantly thought, I would like to pay the people I work with fair. It's beautiful. It's like it's something really beautiful that does you a lot of does you honor in a lot of ways, and I think it's very kind and heartwarming to hear that, definitely. And also for the the marketing, of course, but the one thing that didn't surprise me here is the fact that basically, Virginie, you said I would be doing the next game that we're already working on. So you guys are really committed to whatever you're doing in your mission. You would just be doing it better, larger, louder, maybe, but it would still be what you're doing, and it would still work. And I always say there are two kinds of answers to this question. One is the people who want to make an MMORPG, and the other one is I would be doing the same thing that I'm doing now, but better. And you fit into the second one, and I think I saw that coming, and I was sure you would. So yeah, that always says that you're on the right track, I think. But yeah, so I think this is everything for this episode of the Indie Diaries. I think you guys have been a lovely couple to meet, and it's been lovely to speak to you. This was a beautiful episode. We touched on a lot of the interesting points. I have already marked 4 clips from this episode, and that's probably the most I've marked on any episode so far. So yeah, I think it's time for some parting words now. Where can other people find you? And if they do, what is the best way to support you?
So we are on lots of platforms: X, Instagram, Tumblr, TikTok, YouTube at the Kaiyo Mission. And we also have a website, explorestudiogames.com, where people can find us. We're obviously on Steam, and on Steam there's a free demo available in 14 languages. So
14 languages, wow. Yeah.
Probably like wherever you are on the planet, there's something for you.
Is there Italian?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, there we go. So there's one for me too.
Yeah, and if you like the demo, wishlist the game. We hope to release it the 11th of December this year. Yes, and thank you, Anne. Thank you, everyone who's going to be listening to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having us. It was really fun. And
You're welcome, guys. And
thank
of course,
you for your work. It's
no,
important work you're doing.
It's nothing. I mean, it's not about me. It's never about me. It's about the people that come onto the show and want to talk about their story. So yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you. And of course, I will put all of these links in the description of the episode so that people can check you out and come follow you and support you in any way they can. But yeah, so thank you again for a beautiful episode. Best of luck with the Kaiyo Mission and whatever comes next. I'm sure you guys are going to find the people that resonate with your game the most, and I'm sure it's going to be a lovely success for your team. And maybe you'll be able to pay your team fairly, fairly as I think you already paid them fairly in within the constraints of what you can do, but paying them for what you think they're worth, which is always important. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and that's a wrap on another episode of the Indie Diaries podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Mario and Virginie for being two amazing guests to have on the show. What you guys are doing with the Kaiyo Mission is incredible, and I think everybody listening to this episode will agree that there's a lot of passion and a lot of love and a lot of personality and a lot of humanity in everything that you're doing and how much heart you're pouring into your little project. So best of luck to you, and I can't wait for the Kaiyo Mission to be out. Listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please support Mario and Virginie. Please support the show as well. You can leave 5 stars, a rating on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. You can subscribe to the show if you haven't already. And of course, you can also go on theindiediaries.com to check out all of the links to Patreon, Coffee, and Discord, and the social media channels that I'm on. Twitter, if it's still alive by the time you listen to this episode, because, you know, interesting things are going on there. There's a new one every month these days. But anyway, thank you again for listening. And if you are an indie game developer yourself and you want to tell your story, please get in touch, because I would love to share it with the world and with the wider indie game development community. But until then, thanks again to all my Patreons, and I'll speak to you in the next episode of the Indie Diaries, which is going to be episode 58, the next to last of the year.